Hey there folks, welcome back to the channel. So I wasn't planning on making another video so soon after the last one because the last one has been up for a little less than a day, and I've received some excellent feedback and some excellent comments, so I want to thank you all for that. If you've commented on it, I've tried my best to reply back to everybody to the best of my ability. But the last video also brought about an interesting couple of comments that were kind of an elephant in the room for me because it was something I had been kind of keeping an eye on and something that had been I won't say concerning because I think that's the wrong word, but something I've been observing where I was content to let it slide because it really was harmless, but it was something where in the most recent set of comments I saw had taken a bit of a turn, and I was like, okay, I kind of have to nip this in the bud a little bit. I got to kind of call back and push back on it a little because I don't want to leave something like that open-ended and not at least address it in some way. So what I'm going to do is, it was a really long pair of comments, and you're going to get a screen share of me talking through the points in it. So I'm going to go through the comment itself, and I want to make clear right off the top, it's going to feel like this is a call out, basically a call out on somebody. It's not intended to be one because I don't want to use it to focus on the individual, but what I want to do is I want to use it as kind of a teachable moment, and this kind of enforces the last couple of videos that I've been making about the importance of really considering the sources of information that you're getting, but also the sources in which criticism or comment is coming from. And by the way, you should apply the exact same amount of stringent analysis to what I say. You know, where am I coming from? What's my background? Why am I saying these things? Why can I say these things? Why do I feel like I can? Or more importantly, you know, am I basing it on anything? I try my best whenever I say something to at least back it up with some kind of a rationale so you can say, oh, that makes sense, or no, he's an idiot. Either way, I'm good. It makes no, you can call me an idiot, but you better have a reason for it. The same way that if you're listening to what I'm saying, you should be listening for reasons for me. So I want to give this little preamble ahead of time just so that when we go into the video, then you don't get lost in the underlying message. I don't care so much about the individual, but I need to use it as an example because I think it's the perfect case study in the importance of disclosure. And real quick before I go into the next clip, when I'm talking about disclosure, I'm talking about this. If you have a link, an association, even a perceived association with a product, a service, a platform, anything, and you're going to comment on it, or you're going to comment on a direct competitor of it, and utter an opinion, you're allowed to have an opinion. Everybody's allowed to have an opinion. It's perfectly fine. But if you have a connection that could somehow impinge upon, you know, and make it obvious that you have some kind of a bias, or lead someone to conclude that you might have a bias, I think it's really important that you make sure to put that out there up front so that people can take it into account and consider it. And the reason why that's so important is because if you find out about it later, it undermines what you said originally. And then it's really hard to get back your credibility because then I have to think about everything you said. Did you say it because you meant it? Or did you say it because you had a reason to say it? Or did you have a connection to the thing somehow that led you in that direction? And the last point I'm going to make that I do address a little bit in the clip is that there's different kinds. There's certain kinds that are obvious. If I was endorsing a product and I work for the company, you would say, well, that's an obvious bias. You should disclose that. That's an easy one. Or if I have a financial stake in it, as in I own shares in the company or I'm part of the company, not necessarily as an employee, but even as like a partial owner, an angel investor, anything, I should disclose that. Because then anything I do to promote or to hurt a competitor or to argue against the competitor could be very much me just trying to do something for myself. Where we get into a gray area is what if there's no financial incentive? What if I don't gain anything financially? What if maybe I'm just friends with the people that are involved in the platform or the service? What if I enjoy the product or service? What if I'm just a big fan? That in itself is not a crime. But the problem becomes if I take my fandom to the point that I am actively working against other products, but then not disclosing my direct connections to it, especially when I'm in some kind of a position where I'm not just a regular fan just sitting on the sidelines watching. And that's the gray area that I want to address a little bit today because I think it's super important to keep that in mind because it's not just the content creators, it's not just the commenters, everybody has something that could potentially be a bias, and that's okay because I have a bias too. Some things I'm going to like more than others, maybe because something rubs me the wrong way, and I try my best to understand that about myself and explain it where I can. And if I fail to do that, call me out on it because I deserve it. But it's really hard sometimes to be able to catch yourself. But usually when I try to catch back the video, if I see something I don't like, I try to edit it out, I try to re-record it, I try to do whatever I need to do. Usually I'm fairly comfortable with what I come up with, but sometimes you need to be aware enough to be able to watch it and say to yourself, if I saw somebody else saying that, and I knew what I know about their background, Is that a valid thing? Or is there something I need to consider about what they're saying? Okay, so the preamble needed to be said because I'm going to get comments on it probably, and I wanted to stave off as many of the obvious ones as I could. So let's get into the clip there, and when we come back, we'll finish it off. All right, so we're going to use the screen sharing thing here. So I'm in the YouTube studio, and I'm just going to look at the comments themselves, and I'm going to address certain specific things in them, and then we'll kind of look at them a little bit more closely together. Like I mentioned before, the idea isn't to do a call out here, but it is a bit of a teachable moment to try to explain that when you put something out there, you have to be aware that if you don't disclose or give context to what you're doing, I keep focusing on this context thing, but it is because it is so important. I can say anything I want or have any opinion I want, and I'm allowed to be associated with whatever I want, but I can't just say stuff. I have to be able to either back that up, or I have to be able to substantiate it, or at least give that context so people can decide how much or how little of what I'm saying they want to listen to. So this was one of the comments here by Ziggy No on my video literally yesterday as I'm recording this. So I'm going to ignore a chunk of this because it's just kind of giving his own background, his own thoughts on certain things, but I want to focus on this here. This specific thing. So turns out Card Ladder doesn't like that I use market movers or Card Ladder in my videos, go figure. That's kind of an accusation, but he's explaining it based on the idea here that he say, you'll notice Card Ladder has only featured my channel one time in their new feed. Now this goes back to kind of what I said about, you don't just throw stuff out there, because if I can fact check it quickly, then it's not going to bode well for how I treat the rest of your words. Because as soon as he said that, I've been on the news feed and seen it for long enough. I've been with the Card Ladder platform. I don't watch a lot of the stuff on there. I don't really pay too much attention to those recommendations, but I know for a fact that isn't true. And I went into Card Ladder and I pulled it directly. So this is the hobby roundup here. So this is on Card Ladder right now. This is the news feed. I just scrolled back down. Like I said, it didn't take me long to fact check it. I went and searched Ziggy No's YouTube Sports Card Content Review. This is the week 8. So this is from July the 9th. Okay. Now I'm going to go backwards here. This is going to be July the 8th. Ziggy No, why I use Card Ladder. So there's 2 of them right there. So I understand the idea that, perception is reality. It's one of those things where maybe you didn't catch both or maybe you didn't, but it's an exaggeration. And the problem is it's an exaggeration that I can easily refute just by looking. I'm not a fan of just throwing stuff out there because it sounds accusatory while at the same time it doesn't work. Also, in relation to not being put on here anymore since basically this time, I would cite you this. This right here is actually a comment. I'm on the Discord, and if this is a different person, then so be it. But I find it to be kind of interesting and coincidental. So here he's saying that he's been using Card Ladder every day for a few weeks, enjoys logging into new feed and getting checklists, hate the spam videos, fine. And then he says right here, do you actually watch the content and post, and does Card Ladder endorse these providers to continue? Now this here is actually a valid criticism. This is something I've kind of considered and looked at already and kind of questioned a little bit as far as who gets included in the newsfeed and who doesn't, because it's a limited set of creators and that can create the illusion of bias and favoring certain creators over another. That is a valid point. However, right here, I am a content provider and actually use and pay for Card Ladder. I've featured them in over 5 videos, fine. And no, I don't want to be in your feed. Well, okay, you don't want to be in the feed, but you'll notice Card Ladder has only featured my channel one time in their new feed. So do you want to be in the feed or do you not want to be in the feed? I don't care one way or the other, but I should point out that you can't have it both ways on this one. So the post here from the Discord was July the 11th, and coincidentally after this point, he was no longer in the feed. Requests given, request accepted, request executed. So I'm going to move on from this, but like honestly, that's an easy one. Now, I'm going to move on a little bit further. Moving on here, hype channels. Okay, so that was the first post. That was the thing that struck me, because as soon as I read that, I'm like, okay. But then not long later, there was a second post, and this was the longer one. So this is the one I really want to address, because there's a lot more going on here. So it's giving a little feedback. Feedback was insightful. Great, thank you. There's actually an argument here to be made, but I want to get to that in a little bit. But now we're going to talk a little bit about market movers. So here, market movers is a tool that pulls data from eBay and allows the user to build reports and graphs with the eBay data. That is true. The data is from eBay and can be verified. True. Most hobbyists use eBay, 130 point Terramark data. I think it's TerraPeak that he's referring to, but anyway, that's fine. To do the same thing, market movers allows paying members. Sure. Market movers includes alerts, ratio comparisons, and graphs. All true, all in the literature. That's fine. That's valid. There is no magic in market movers. That is also true. The tool saves time. Yep, it can. The creator is very honest about his business and goals to provide hobbyists with a tool that can increase the ability. Okay, that's nice. That's editorializing a little bit. But at the same time, I don't know how honest he is about his business. I have no reason to believe he's not honest, as in terms of Jeff Wilson and, sports card investor and all that. But at the same time,
this comes off like a marketing piece, and that's okay. But we have to be kind of cognizant of how things come off when we write stuff like this, because it looks like editorializing to kind of help yourself. Now, SCI does provide paying members with tips based on research from tool. I'm against that, but that's fine. If you have experience, again, there's no magic picture stats. Cool. I agree this model can feed a feedback loop. Again, if you look at other content providers, blah, blah, blah. Other ones have provided prism ladders for years. Fair enough. That's valid. In my opinion, Market Mover is the best tool for the hobby. Okay, that's fine. That is an opinion, and you can have that opinion. Here's the problem. Remember what I said earlier about context and disclosure? Okay. Like I said, this is not intended to be a call out, but this is a teachable moment. And it is really important that we contextualize when someone offers an opinion, we got to consider the source. I've seen Ziggy on a million different things, including posts on my channel, including, posts in his own channel, including other people's channels, as well as, in live chats all over the hobby sphere. Ziggy always there. Awesome. Good for him. But at the same time, look, you're talking about market movers. You're speaking of it in glowing terms. You're speaking all its virtues. Great. And I have no issue with that, but we need to be aware of something very, very important. You kind of have to point out certain things. If you're going to take this stance, you also have to be willing to say something. You've been on Sports Card Investor's channel, and this isn't a gotcha. This has been on the channel for weeks. It's 4 weeks and 10,000 views, so it's not like it's hidden away anywhere. It's not a secret. But he was on the channel talking about Facebook groups, and the thing is, Ziggy is an admin on the Sports Card Investor Facebook group, or an admin, or kind of a mod, or whatever it was. And Jeff cites it in this video himself. So here are the guys having a chat, and this is the exact video that we're talking about, interview with Ziggy Again, well, actually, I should say, to be clear, that's not a crime. That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly valid, and you can do whatever. But here's the thing: you can't be doing this and then not kind of cite anywhere in here. There's got to be a disclosure to it. It would be like somebody being the admin of an I Love Pepsi Facebook group and then posting videos and comments everywhere. You know why I hate Coke? Coke's terrible. Isn't Coca-Cola the worst? It comes off as disingenuous. It's problematic, because even if that is your real opinion, well, how much validity can I give to your opinion if you nowhere anywhere disclose that you do have that connection? And this creates a bit of a conundrum, because if I told you, so let's say I take the opposite approach and I'm the one defending Card Ladder. I don't really want to be in that position, but let's say I'm doing that and I defend Card Ladder, and I say, and at some point you find out, well, actually Carlos has a stake in Card Ladder. Well, then that invalidates a lot of what I'm talking about. It really brings my credibility into question, and correctly so. If on the other side of it, you find out that I'm actually working with them as either an employee or a consultant, in the same vein, you have to question my motives for basically providing that cover for them. Now, I'm not accusing Ziggy of that, because as far as I know, there's no any kind of a financial arrangement or anything like that, and I'm not accusing him of anything of the sort. But at the same time, even if it's a voluntary position that he does himself out of just that he wanted to, and that they allowed him to do it, and that they have a good relationship in that sense, the relationship is still a thing that has to be kind of disclosed. It's like, even if it's just, well, I'm friends with them, so just be aware of that. Because you need to know that the person you're hearing from may already have some built-in bias. Nobody is without bias. There's nothing you can talk about. If I did a video on market movers and I just didn't like Jeff, maybe I just look at the video and I look at him doing his, hello intro, and it just annoys me. It grades on me. Well, that's going to impact how I'm going to rate it. Even if it's a subconscious bias, I'm still going to have one. So I have to kind of factor that in. I have to consider, look, I don't really like Jeff Wilson. I don't have an issue with Jeff Wilson personally, just to be clear. But I'm saying, if that was a real thing for me, I would have to at least make that aware to you. But if I'm a member of a Facebook group, a member or an admin or a mod or anything like that, where I have any kind of an association, and then I'm going to talk about a competing platform, I have to at least make sure that people are aware of that, so that they can take that into consideration when they hear what I'm saying. And that leads me into the rest of this comment. So we're going to get into talking a little bit about the rest of this here, and I'm going to fact check a couple of these things, because like I said, as I started reading through it, I was like, I don't even need to look this up. I already know it's off. So now I have to go through it and kind of break it down piece by piece. So here we go. So now let's look at Card Ladder. The founders are well respected in the hobby and hosted podcast channels for years, lots of community support. Fair enough. All good. Card Ladder is, I believe this is portrayed, but that's fine, by Lamine James, a savior tool, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Am I the only one that wants to point out Card Ladder is a hype tool? Now here's your problem. I just gave you a second ago why I have to make sure that I take what you say about a competing platform with a grain of salt, but now you're saying that it's a hype tool. which you can make this argument. You can make this case if you really want to. Remember, I talked about the feedback loop, and I said analytical tools in general. I didn't single out a specific analytical tool. I included both of them under the same category because they both serve the same general function. If I was to include only one at the expense of the other, then we have to kind of take a look at what I'm doing. But I'm leaving it open-ended, and then Slabstocks comes out with something similar, I'm going to lump them into the same category because they're still providing the same kind of data. So I can't exclude any of them and be fair. Even Terapeak to a certain degree kind of helps with that, but Terapeak right now doesn't have the same functionality, so I have to bear that in mind. Okay, so anyway, Card Ladder leverages sales data from eBay, yes, amongst other places. I've mentioned that before. But the differentiator is the Card Ladder and the score algorithm with each daily sale and calculates a ladder score or hype score. Again, you're editorializing, you're adding your own, but fine. Why did they do this? If you ask why a Luca 2019 city limits on the ladder, you might find the answer is hard to understand. Okay, so hold on. If you ask why it's included in the ladder, you might find the answer is hard to understand. Okay, so let me quickly address this. The whole ladder score thing, I don't really give much credence to it. I think it's kind of a gimmicky thing. I think it's a cool thought exercise, but I don't put much validity into it. However, if you say it's hard to understand, then fine. But I know for a fact that Ziggy's asked about this before in terms of that. But the thing is, you don't even need to ask. And I need to show this to you guys because we got to be fair about this. So about the ladder score, how they arrive at those scores. Okay. So let's go back here to Card Ladder. Let's go back up to the top. And right now under this section called Help, this is in Card Ladder right now. So if I go here and I search, what is the ladder? That is one of the specific FAQ questions. What is the ladder? We provide 5 ways to rank cards. Okay. So if I go to the first one, ladder score, or simply score, that's the one he's referring to. Okay. This ranks cards according to a 14-day trend. The formula sums a card's daily dollar exchange, daily percentage change, and transaction volume to produce a card's ladder score. The formula is. Now, this is not a simple formula, but the formula is being shown here. Last sale within the last 14 days minus first sale within the last 14 days divided by the days elapsed plus last sale within the last 14 days minus first sale within the last 14 days. That's the same as this part. Divided by the first sale divided by the days elapsed plus the quantity sold per day divided by 10. How they arrived at this algorithm to decide to do it, I have no idea. But the point is, based on this, you could potentially reproduce this number yourself and determine whether it is in fact the correct and accurate number for whatever the card happens to be. So if I go on the ladder right now, the number 1 card is Bol Bol's Silver Raw. Why on earth would this be at the top of the ranking? Because at the moment, based on the algorithm, it fits at the top of the ranking. Here's your score, 319.5. What does that mean? I have no idea. Is that really a valid metric of anything? Not really to me, but the point is it's based on an algorithm. The 97 Fleer Showcase Hobby Box is number 2. The Kobe Bryant PSA 10 96 Topps Chrome is LeBron James is number 4. Jack Nicklaus Donruss card PSA 10 is number 5. Like right now, based on that top 5, it seems like the algorithm's just doing whatever it wants based on whatever data is getting input into it. Now, the data that you input into it will affect this greatly based on that formula we just got. But the point is the formula is here. If you don't understand the formula, that's a different conversation. If the formula doesn't make sense to you, that's a different conversation. If you disagree with the formula, that's yet another conversation. It's a valid conversation. But you can't argue that it's not being included. So from the disclosure perspective, I'll give Card Ladder its credit because it's right here. And you can decide for yourself whether it's correct or not. And you can run those numbers. And the reason I point that out is because I'm going to go further down in this comment. Should I point out that the most popular cards recently at Ladder are LeBron, Jordan, and Luka? Those have been selling a lot, so it makes sense. Should I point out the owners of Card Ladder have publicly displayed their deep LeBron, Jordan, and Luka cards? Now you're accusing them of bias and rigging their own thing here. Because and this next sentence does that. You have an engine that takes pure eBay data, it's not just eBay data, and distorts it. Now you're accusing them of distorting the algorithm to hype cards on the top 100. It's more than the top 100, I'm pretty sure, but anyway, that's fine. Now imagine if Market Moves was promoting Lonzo Ball in his top 10. Well, if they had an algorithm, maybe they would. I can't answer that. I have no idea. But you see that the point is this comment is starting to take on a very biased tone, and that's problematic to me. I can't accept it at face value then. That's why I'm not going to reply to this in terms of text because it's like there's a lot here. Even if you don't agree with the hype ladder, and again, we're editorializing, and the players it promotes, I ask you what is the value of Card Ladder. That's subjective. That's up to you. In Card Ladder, you assume the data is accurate, but can you see the eBay sales and auction results from a Card Ladder? You can see them in Market Movers. The user can decide if they want to accept the data or not in Market Movers. Card Ladder, you accept what they tell you, no choice. Okay, so let me go to the first question. But can you see the eBay sales and auction details from Card Ladder? Yeah, you can. All right, back to Card Ladder. Just going to go right back to the top. I'm going to pick Luka Doncic. Let's pick an easy one. See if I spelled it right. All right, let's do the silver. Silver prism is a pretty common one. There's a lot of market volume. Okay, I'm going to expand this. Now in market movers, you would see that by scrolling down. You would find it like down here. Okay. Okay. So one thing, you're going to see the multiplier logic of how they arrived at these prices. Blah blah blah. A couple of links. Okay. Great. Cool. Sales chart here. Right now I've got it set to 2 weeks. You can set it to all time. You can set it to whatever. Now, where are the sales, Carlos? How about view all sales? Here you go. Scroll down. You can see the sale. And if it's within the last 3 months and you click on this, it opens up a link. And the link takes you to eBay, and you can see the sale. So, short answer, yes, you can. All you got to do is look and click on it. I'm pretty sure I even covered that in my last video, but anyway. So, yeah, it's there. So, short answer to that question, yes. Yes, you can. Check those eBay sales and confirm them yourself. If it's beyond the 60 or 90 days, then you can't confirm it yourself. But if you went to Market Movers and tried to do something older than 90 days, that would also not work, so it's exactly the same. It's 2 different formats, 2 different UIs, but it's the same concept, and they both do the same thing. Both tools provide graphs. Also true. Card Ladder can only graph 5 cards. That's a criticism. That can be a feature request. That's on you. That's just depending on what your preference is. Fine. They have longer historical data, but again, how does a purchase in 2013 impact my decision to buy today? Well, it might not. I happen to like historical data, but that's just me. The new feed is a commercial for friendly content providers, not a channel of valuable content. That's an accusation. They both have collections. Buy CardGenie if you need to track your collection. It's a $4 one-time payment. Good to know. I'm not familiar with CardGenie. I'll look into it at some point. My summary, if you think it's bad to see all the low-hanging fruit videos for the collection, imagine if they had Card Ladder. I've seen videos using market movers that do the same thing, but sure. Then it doesn't need to research. You can just cut pictures out of the Card Ladders and drop videos every day. That is happening right now with market movers and Card Ladder. That's not exclusive to one platform. Anyone that reads this far and would like to debate my points, please. I just did it. Explain to me what I'm missing. There was a bunch, and I just explained it. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And I'm going to go and kind of give my final conclusions on this, and we'll call this a wrap for this video.
All right, and that's kind of my breakdown of that one. Don't expect this to be a normal thing where I'm going to do a video response to a comment. But when you write an epic comment of that type, and then there's some questions that I have to bring up about it, then I guess I'm kind of, my hands are tied in that regard. And it was one of those things that I wasn't comfortable with it necessarily from the perspective of it isn't the kind of thing that I want to be getting into the habit of doing here. But I'm not going to let stuff slide. Anybody is more than welcome to comment on any of my videos. Please, I welcome the dialogue. I welcome the conversation. But if you're going to come with definitive statements, I really would prefer if you come with some kind of a fact to it. If you have just a straight up opinion, then that's an opinion. That's fine. But if you come to something and try to cite it as a fact, or try to cite it as, a stronger than normal opinion, then I'm going to kind of push back if I see something that is a little bit off to me. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that, just so we're all on the same page, just so we're transparent with each other. And that's the best I can do. Anyway, so hopefully back to normal hobby content on the next video. I really would like to move on to more conventional things. I will still talk about stuff from time to time, and I've got some plans that hopefully I'll be able to enact in the next while. Thanks as always for watching and listening. Again, comments are more than welcome. If you want to comment on this one and chat about it, we certainly can. And I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks very much.